Hi, my name is Kristen, and I'm a counselor at Fanshawe College. I'm introducing WellTrack Interactive Self-Help Therapy app. This is available to you for free if you sign up with your Fanshawe online email address. WellTrack is intended to help you cope with stress, anxiety, or depression. It's based on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is one of the most researched and evidence-based approaches out there. It's going to be most helpful for the kind of everyday human experience of depression, anxiety, or stress. If you have a clinical depression or an anxiety disorder, it can be helpful in addition to treatment through your doctor or a therapist. If you're experiencing a lot of distress or trouble functioning, or suicidal thoughts that are getting so intense you're afraid you could act on them, then it's really important that you reach out for help. And the app does have some numbers that you can call, or you can go to your doctor, or come on in to Counselling and Accessibility Services. So I'll draw your attention to the icon here for WellTrack. And I'm going to sign on. I'm already signed up, so I'll put in my password here, hit sign in. Normally this would take you directly to a welcome screen and then your first assessment. I'm going to click on assessment at the bottom so you can see what that looks like. When you answer these questions, you're only going to think about the past week. I'm going to fill in the answers with some random answers just to go quickly. The last few questions are just yes or no answers, and they're asking you if you're having difficulties with anything in particular. And for each one, if you answer yes, then it's going to give you some local resources that might be helpful. I hit next. I'll just hit no on the rest of these. And finish. So this is going to give me some indication. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not meant to diagnose you, but it gives you some idea of where you can start in the app, what you should focus on. And it's going to cue you to do this from time to time, so you can see over time as you do the exercises in the app whether your assessment improves. And of course, as life throws you curveballs, we can expect this might go up and down. I'm going to click on MoodCheck at the bottom. This is one of the main features of the app. Mood Tracker helps you notice patterns with your mood. It's going to ask you about your mood, what you're doing, who you're with. And this can help you notice triggers, patterns, so that you can start to problem solve those kinds of triggers. I drag the circle around this outer circle, and that's going to set the facial expression. And then I can click off as many words as I want to that represent my mood. I'll say anxious and lonely. I can also click on more and add other words if the right word isn't there. I'll say blah. And click the plus sign, and then the X to go back. And I'll hit next. And it's going to ask me what I'm doing. I'll say drinking coffee. Next. Who am I with? I'll say no one. Again, I can hit more and add like I did before. Next. Where am I? Home. And what's on your mind? So I'll say I'm thinking about my future. And save. And give me some stats so I can track my mood over time. This is also useful. Sometimes if we've got a lot of depressed or anxious thoughts, we start to get a narrative in our head that strings them together into a story like nothing good ever happens to me, or I'm always depressed, or I'm always anxious. And when you get these random notifications to notice what you're feeling in real time, it might help you hang on to the fact that sometimes things do feel kind of okay or even good. So that's useful for that reason as well. Next, I'm going to click on courses at the bottom, and we see that there are 2 courses available, one on stress and anxiety, the other on depression. If we went in there, we'd see that it's broken out into 5 weeks. The idea is that you would just look at the videos for 1 week at a time and then spend that week practicing the exercises and ideas that are presented. It's that practice that's going to give you lasting change as you use your brain to change your brain. The videos are very short. Notice that the whole 5 weeks for stress and anxiety only takes up 32 minutes altogether, and similar for the depression module. So I click on Tools at the bottom next, and the first tool we're going to look at is the Zen Room. This contains a lot of meditations that you can choose from. And they can help counter the physiological responses to stress and anxiety by helping you relax. Relaxation can also give you a rest from a racing mind of negative or anxious thoughts. The Leaves on the Stream one at the bottom is one that I really appreciate. It teaches a new way of responding to negative and anxious thoughts. Our default response is that they go over and over in our heads, but this teaches us to let them go. The next one we're going to look at is the Activity Scheduler. In order to have good mental health, we need to be active in 3 broad areas. We need to do achievement activities, we need to connect with others socially, and we need to have some fun, do some pleasurable activities. So this tool lets us schedule those things. And so I'll click on Go to the Activity Scheduler and New Activity. And I'm going to select an achievement activity. I can put in a new one if it's not there, so I tap in the text box and I can type in project, and then I tap on the plus sign to add it, and it moves me on to put in the time. I find this a little fiddly. I would rather use a paper and pencil calendar kind of thing. The only advantage to doing it actually in this app is if you are sharing your information with a counselor. If you've got a counselor at the school, they can give you an invitation to share your information, and then you can talk about it. But you could bring it in on paper and pencil as well. So whatever you find the easiest. The key here for success is to think small. If a big project seems overwhelming, break it down into small steps. And remember, some of the most important goals you can work toward when you're looking after your mental health is to regularize your eating, sleeping, and get some exercise. So I'll just click on Done and Save. And we'll go back to the tools. The next tool I want to talk about is this one, Fun and Achievement. I'm not going to show you how it works. It's pretty similar to the other things, and I find it really clunky. I'd rather do it on paper and pencil, but it's a really good exercise. Basically, when you start setting goals for yourself, often the mind starts telling you negative thoughts. It's too scary, or it won't go well, or I don't feel like it won't work, that kind of stuff. And so it's important to kind of notice what your mind predicts, write it down, and then do the activity anyway, and reflect on your actual experience. And you'll find sometimes it's different. Sometimes you might be right, but often your mind is incorrect. And this will help you change your patterns of behavior as you notice the difference between what your mind predicts and what actually happens. The Cognitive Distortions quiz, this is just making sure you understood a concept from those courses, and it's a concept, there's language that gets used in this other tool above. I'm going to go into the Thought Diary and show you this one. I'll just click on Go to Thought Diary and begin a new Thought Diary. So the first thing is to choose an activating event. So if I've had a big emotional reaction to something, I want to identify what was it that triggered that. And I want to use really neutral language. So I'm just going to say, I made a mistake. Next. And I want to list my feelings about that. Maybe I felt angry at myself. Down below, I can rate the intensity of how angry I felt. I can add another feeling. I felt embarrassed. And I can scroll down and rate the intensity. I felt really embarrassed. And I can hit Next. And when we have those feelings, we want to identify the thoughts that are in our mind as we're feeling that. So maybe with my anger, I was thinking I shouldn't make mistakes, or maybe I should be more careful. And I'm not going to take the time to type that all out. And then below, I can say how true I think that thought is. In the moment, I think it's really true. As I reflect and as I learn the stuff in this course, maybe I know that should and shouldn't is kind of a clue that's probably not absolutely true. It's a bit of a thought distortion. What was my thought when I felt embarrassed? People will laugh at me. Or people will judge me. How true is that? Again, as you learn this material, it might feel like it was absolutely true at the time, but when I reflect on it, I don't really know what's going on in somebody else's head. So I'm going to rate that lower when I reflect on it. And next, identify unhelpful thinking. So these are these words that you learned in the course and that quiz was all about. So when I think I shouldn't have made a mistake, I should be perfect, or I should be more careful, I'm blaming myself. That's personalization. And maybe I'm catastrophizing how big a deal this mistake is. My thoughts about people will laugh at me or judge me, that might be a bit of catastrophizing. Some of these overlap. I think the best fit here is jumping to conclusions. I don't really know what's happening inside other people's minds, so I'm jumping to conclusions. And then you have this opportunity to challenge your thought. We can't pick our first thought that pops into our head, but we can pick a better thought, a more helpful thought. So when I'm thinking I shouldn't make mistakes, or I should be perfect, or I should be more careful, I can choose to say to myself instead this more helpful thought: everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. And I can scroll down, and this other thought, people will laugh at me or judge. Maybe a more helpful thought is, if people laugh, they're probably being good-natured. Maybe they can really relate to my position, and that's what's making them laugh. And if they judge me, maybe it's their problem more than my problem if they can't be forgiving or understanding. So I'm going to hit next. And the final thing is to create a plan. Next time I make a mistake or something like this happens, how do I want to respond to it differently? And you know, I'm probably not going to remember the first couple of times, but every time I do these sorts of exercises, I'm building the neural pathways so that I can respond better in the future. So I'm thinking this through, and next time I want to choose kind self-talk, like those new thoughts that I created. Everyone makes mistakes, it's okay. If people laugh, they're being good-natured, and if they're judging, it's their problem. So I'm going to use that kind self-talk, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes and move on. So that's the idea of a thought diary. Finish. I think you can do this on paper and pencil, but I didn't find this too clunky. So it's up to you. However you want to do it is fine. The thing is to do it, to use your brain, to change your brain. I'm going to exit out of that before I sign out. I also want to look at this bottom right-hand corner where it says resources. This is giving me all the same sorts of resources that were in the initial assessment, so I can access them easily. I'll tap on the menu in the top right corner, and that will take us to the menu where you can sync with a counselor. If you're working with a counselor at Fanshawe College, you can share your information. You sign out at the bottom. We'll also look at this emergency help. If you're in a mental health crisis, you can contact the Reach Out line, and that's available to you whether you're in London, Middlesex, Elgin, or Oxford counties. And there's also the Good to Talk line there, and a few others. The last thing I'll mention is that you can log on to WellTrack at welltrack.com, and that has one more course there, and it's for people with phobias of public speaking. At the end of the course, there's a simulated audience that looks like a classroom full of bored classmates, and you can practice in front of that. If you need further help, please contact a counselor at Counselling and Accessibility Services at Fanshawe College. All the best.